What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Day Trades back at it again here on Monday with a great banger of a trade that we did catch this morning during the New York session. So here we're gonna go over this trade within YM from this morning that we did capitalize a full 1 to 3 risk reward ratio. All right. So how we kind of approach the market on a day-to-day basis, we typically log in between that 8:30 and 9 a.m. Time period for pre-New York, markups, things of that nature. So what I'd like to see a lot of times is pretty much being able to come in and mark my highs throughout the, previous sessions. So typically between Asian and London sessions, highs and lows, and just any interesting forms of liquidity that I might see within the market, both buy side and sell side. So what we're going to do here is mark up a few areas that we did like. So again, started off my times with that. So I saw highs here, some form of entry high as far as buy side liquidity. And then I came through and marked a few of the lows. So obviously here we had London low, which is a significant area of interest, being that it's London low and also a form of sell side liquidity, right? So came through, marked this area here. And these are also higher time frame areas as far as where we're marking from. Label that as sell side liquidity. Then we have buy side there as well. So, and also we did have news necessarily this morning. So I do tend to go up every time we have news, whatever the candle high is or the candle low. So that includes every side of the wick. Um, I tend to mark that. So typically when we have news, how I've noticed prices of late, as far as how it trades with it, treat it the same way you do liquidity. Those are internal, I see them as forms of internal liquidity. In this case, it was form of, say, higher time frame liquidity just with the day of how market was running and everything. So I come through and mark my data highs and my data lows. Is how I notify as far as news. So anticipating that, just with seeing, structure within the market, obviously we have some form of an uptrend as we are moving upward here. So I did identify that. So obviously I'm gonna keep going with the trend. I mean, last week, Friday, we kind of had the bias of sell side, but obviously we had a shift in the trend necessarily with the incoming order flow buy side, right? So just wanted to capitalize off of that. So after I had my areas of interest necessarily marked, we dove in and just had to wait for what, we want to see in price. So let's see here. As we scale in, so we start going from there to the 5 minute range, if that, things of that nature. So ideally, with my bias, I'm thinking, okay, we're near data highs, obviously. We're far away from the data lows, and we're closer to this buy side liquidity. And there's going to be some form of strong pull here off of the sell side as well as the London lows area and that data low or area of liquidity that we have now marked. So as we're approaching and we're going down here to say like the 3 minute, and as things are starting to play out, we're just gonna keep going here. Once I saw this wick in this next candle, right? This heavy wick is what we look for necessarily within macros, insinuating that is our form of manipulation. So manipulation is pretty much just when the market is gonna, in a sense like a fake out, if that, obvious term there, that more common use of a word there, is a fake out. So once the fake out happens into this range, obviously there's some form of a gap here. I consider that to be a fair value gap. Once we wick through that, and obviously I wanted to see it kind of drop a little bit lower, but once we wick through here, I'm looking for some form of buyer's potential. This wick was just that form of a confirmation with it. So I knew we had to kind of target this data high as well as this buy side liquidity. As far as how high we weren't too short on that necessarily. So we just took our general statement of a good buy trade here, and we got it around 41 to yeah, 41 424 was our entry point. And with our standard set parameters is 1 to 3 here with YM, or in other words, US 30. These are going to mirror each other. But with YM, we necessarily just take our general 200 points for risking 60 points. So that price range is going to be at least per contract. We did trade this with one whole contract today on YM. So we're risking about 300 for over about 1,000 um, in terms of that. So we did call this out into the chat. The chat did benefit from this entry um, as far as how that goes. So as it just continued to play, we did have, let's see here. I'll just add this order if it'll do it. Something of this nature, right? So as we're moving along, we're just taking each step trade by trade, breaks out here. And just continues. We did get a little consolidation and it pulled back a little bit and just played all the way through, right? So if we look at it from a smaller time frame, we did have this, I believe, on a three. But that's just the end all be all with that trade. We took it pretty far up. Again, it was only risking four necessarily at 1,000. So since there, we did catch that here off this. So nice little 1 to 3 on here's 3.3, however you want to call it. But in sense, we're just going to keep it at that 1 to 3 ratio. But we did capitalize off of this. So it worked in our favor, and I believe price did continue to flow upwards as buy side liquidity came in there. So it did, like I said, work in our favor. And that's just a simple markup as far as how we ended up, capitalizing off of this trade. My 2 cents here on this trade as well. For NQ, obviously my targets for the day, realistically, were only $1,000. So we did capitalize on that, right? So I'm not going to overtrade, but I will break this part down on this trade. So similar here, let's drop down to even the 1 minute as far as what I saw. All right, so similar situation to what we had here in YM. We did get necessarily our data highs and our data low. We swept buy side liquidity here and continued to push up, right? So a lot of times, obviously, we're in an uptrend, so I'm just only looking for buys. We could have caught this potential buy setup off of there, but we weren't, going to force any entry as we did see a higher time frame. I believe this was a 15-minute fair value gap. Yeah, we had a 15-minute fair value gap that I wanted to see us trade into before we necessarily took anything or get, close to it, right? So as we went through the day here, and we're gonna just let price run through. Boom. Once price traded into it, I'm looking for some form of inversion. So in sense of what I'm looking for is some form of an inverse fair value gap. So from this area, say for example, let's draw this out here. So obviously, boom, we're trading up into here. As soon as I see some form of displacement, I want to see this fall out of some inversion or inverted, say, area, right? So say we had a fair value gap here, trade back into that zone, and we dump from there, right? So from here, we did get some form of that. So as we're trading up into this zone, we come through, play around in it, and we eventually drop out, right? So we did get a form of displacement, kind of off of this area there. So me being a precision type person, we came through, marked this up, right? Here's my inversion. We had displacement up here, and we'll mark that in red. We had our displacement. We break through this previous fair value gap entry area here on this left side on the 1 minute. And we're just waiting for some form of a retest, right? We just need some form of a retest or confirmation that's going to get us to come from here, or regardless of where it taps, come here, fake us out, and just come, trail back down, right? So with how I was looking at wanting to analyze this trade, I didn't want to just set a sell limit here because, a lot of times it's a 50% chance that you can get, tagged and it continue to go in your favor, or you can get incensed, swept as with liquidity, come up, risk there, and tank from there. So you'd be out of luck, say if you had a stop loss anywhere in that area, right? So as price just keeps going, let's play. We traded back into the zone. Obviously, like I said a second ago, we did have to come up and test this displacement area. So we weren't going to look for some form of a sell limit. So now at this point, we're just looking for some form of confirmation to continue to the sell side. So as we're trading here, and we did say this into the chat. So I kind of wanted my entry kind of off of that. I did like this wick, and we did challenge this displaced area. If you wanted to consider this an order block, you could necessarily. I don't really trade order blocks. Just not my cup of tea there. So with NQ, specifically, we're looking for some form of a 1 to 3. It's a lot cleaner here just with it being that holistic number. But a 1 to 3 on any form of a trade is ideally what we're looking for. So as this trade keeps to play out, let's see here. We got it to precision. So caught it in about right there off that, and we just let it play. So obviously we challenged it low. We, came through, tested this previous form fair value gap. Obviously it was inversed, or no, it has not been inversed yet. But we're just going to play that through, right? So as we're playing, we come back up, drag a little bit into our red area. We did not get wicked out here at all. And it's just going to pull all the way through. It just keeps challenging, right? And then eventually, boom, right through your take profit, right? So just, ideally two different setups, one being a buy, one being a sell, that you can just, test a theory with this strategy that I've came up with. It's pretty accurate, a high probability win rate, however you guys want to look at it. We don't really care trade about win rates. We're just looking at the fact of providing value. A lot of times we're going to set, our partial areas. With trading funded, I recommend that everyone, trades or has a partial area, where you're securing profits, not necessarily somewhere where you're gonna risk your full account or anything like that. So like in this instance here, we didn't fully hit TP and we traded back into, say like our trailing stop loss, right? So we could have had a stop loss somewhere at TP1 or TP2, things of that nature. And we would have secured our profits. We would have got stopped out in profits, but at the end of the day, we were in the right trade at the right time, right direction, everything right bias. It doesn't matter if it hits full TP. We just don't want to see it, consistently come back up here and say if we would have got stopped out here if we didn't, move our stop loss into profit, things like that. But always secure your profits. It's always a good thing to do that, especially with these funded accounts, because at the end of the day, you're trying to succeed and get a withdrawal. If you're just playing with it how anyone else would, you're not going to see that withdrawal, right? And my main focus is to always get you guys payouts. So it's not about me getting payouts. My payouts happen, but I want to see every one of my students and mentees benefit from my system of how I trade. So yeah, at the end of the day, two well-rounded trades here to start off the week on a Monday. Won't look to over trade this week, but definitely gonna, secure our profits and keep running up this account, these funded accounts. So definitely, if you seek value in this video, if you want any form of advice or anything like that, feel free to comment, like, and subscribe, as well as ask any questions of that nature. If you're looking for proper mentorship and just that guidance to get funded and not only get funded, but stay funded, you've came to the right place. So definitely tap or take a look in that links in my bio. I have my Instagram as well as our mentorship running there. So yeah, if you want any form of mentorship from me and the team, we're blessing you guys daily. And if you seek value, then just join the chat. We're good. We're here for you. So here at Market Mentors, this is what we do.